Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes, and I got squiggles on the screen. That means all my adapters and adapters on cables are working, guys. Hopefully I sound extra crispy for you. Got all the studio equipment back in the studio recording a podcast just like the old days with all the knobs and all the buttons. Hopefully sounding real good on the audio quality. Got an awesome show lined up for you today, guys. But let's get into the people that make this possible, then we'll get right into the show. Starting off with our Exodus ad read, guys. I'll keep this real short and sweet and full of savings. I have something coming from the Exodus guys that I want to share with you guys, and that is hashtag VelvetFest. We've been talking about it for a while, guys. Got a little more to throw on to sweeten the pot. If you're not familiar with hashtag VelvetFest, it is the official start to deer season, and Exodus helps gets the ball rolling for everyone in their summer scouting. I know when hashtag VelvetFest hits, it means it's time to get my cameras ready and deploy them for season, which I have all my cameras out except 3 right now, guys. They're just doing the Lord's work, like I said, out there soaking, getting that intel for me. But from now to August 19th, they have awesome prizes for people who use the hashtag VelvetFest on their social media, showing their whitetail adventures. If you're out there scouting, you're out there hanging cams, you're out there running trail cams, whatever you're doing, they want to see it. They want to see that hashtag VelvetFest. That's how they're going to be able to see what you guys are doing out there. To help share all the excitement for the upcoming season, we're offering 18% off site-wide, excluding the Exodus MMT arrows, guys. That's 18% off all the cameras, all the camera packages, all the gear, the shirts, everything, excluding the MMT arrows. Prize cards included with every single camera and arrow order. Just scratch the card and you'll find out how much you're winning. On top of that, you can use code SUMMERBUCKS, guys, capital S, capital B, no space, SUMMERBUCKS at checkout, and save 18%. And exclusive to podcast listeners, because we love you guys, they're going to extend this offer to the end of the month. So don't overlook this unique saving opportunity and experience true dependability when it comes to cell cams. If you guys are new to Exodus and you're new to this podcast, over the last 7 years, Exodus has consistently shown they build quality gear that flat out works. The best trail cam warranty, period, in the market. Every single camera is backed by a 5-year warranty and even comes with theft and damage coverage. Yes, 5 years, literally half a decade, you'll be covered by the Exodus 5-year warranty. But more than likely, you won't need these because these cams are built to last. I have cams out there that are 5 years old, still running, still ripping, still getting pictures off them, guys. I hung 2 of them last year, fired right up, set the date. I don't think they're ever going to die on me. But they also just launched the Exodus MMT arrow this summer, a tailor-built arrow to your specifications using nothing but the highest grade components, period. Head to their website, use the 3D builder, experience the best shooting hunting arrow available. If you've been shooting the arrow and you're really enjoying it, go ahead and share with Exodus something that you're really liking about these arrows. They're wanting some feedback on what you guys are seeing. Make sure and use that hashtag VelvetFest, guys, to make sure and not miss out on any of these savings and any of these awesome prizes that they're giving away. Next on the chopping list is rideonoptics.com. We're still shooting the Ride-On Optics. Got them on the muzzleloader this year. Really excited about cranking that. I'll hopefully drop a giant buck this gun season. But they're crafting precision optics for everybody, guys. Their slogan is, "We are marksmen and hunters." And because we've been there, we've built an optic line to withstand it all and never let you down. Within the Ride-On Optics product line, you'll see the difference in everything we do, including the high-quality products at the industry best value and unrelenting customer service support, guys. The customer service is top-notch with these guys. Check out rideonoptics.com for any of your optic needs. Next on the list, we got Tony at 330 Archery. That's 330harchery.com. He has it going on to make sure that you can count on your bow when you need it the most. 330 Archery bowstrings are made with the best material available. They have a super quick turnaround and is offering the listeners of this podcast a 20% off discount using Whitetail, undercase W, Whitetail 20, no spaces, to save 20% off. If you're all about supporting the local guy, the small-time starting out guy, 330 Archery is for you. Visit 330archery.com or reach out to Tony personally to place an order They answer any questions. That's 330archery.com. This week, I'm going to personally be coming at you with my top 8 must-do things before season starts. Sitting in the dining room with my wife, making some notes. She asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm going through a list of stuff, either checking off stuff I've already done or stuff that I need to do in the future before season starts. And she asked me to read them out, so I started reading them off. And she said, maybe you should podcast about this. There might be some other guy out there that missed one of these 8 things. So I'm going to take my wife's advice here, and I'm gonna hit you with my top 8 things to do before season starts. And number 1, guys, pretty easy to do. Get your license in order. Figure out what license you have, what license you need. Here in Illinois, you have to pre-order your gun license. You have to pre-order your muzzleloader license. If not, you have to buy them over the counter. They go on a certain date, and you have to get them. They're pretty quick because they're per county, and they're only the leftover tags, and they sell out fast. So I've got my shotgun tag. I've got my muzzleloader tag. I do not have my habitat stamp. I was going through there. I have my hunting and fishing combo, but I do not have my habitat stamp for some reason. So that's something that I need to do. You'd never want to be put in the circumstance of a game warden or an outdoor officer talking to you, and you don't have your shit in line. If you love the sport, you want to do the right thing. So I got to go get that. I also need to get my migratory bird stamp, something that I don't have for some reason. But on top of that, there's a lot of things for a lot of different states. We have to get windshield permits for our public. That's something I still haven't done. I need to print out every windshield permit for each public that I'm going to. They used to have the old sign-in box where you sign in, sign out. They don't have that anymore. They have a paper that you put up on your dash, and then you carry a paper in your hunting gear or in your pocket. I have like a laminated little Ziploc deal that I put them in with your number. So if anything ever does come up, you have your number, and they can check if you've killed anything out there or how many times you've hunted out there, and etc. So basically just learn what you need. A lot of people are starting up season real quick here. So just learn exactly what you need. Make sure that you got everything in order. And this would be a good thing to do, right after you get done listening to this podcast. Just go through your wallet or wherever you keep your tags and make sure you got all your stuff. If not, buy it now so it's not the night before season and you're trying to drive somewhere and find your tags. Number 2, this is maybe the most important on this list, is talk to your landowners. Make sure you're still good to hunt out there. I know a lot of people might have been doing food plot work already, might have been running cams, might have been hanging stands. There's nothing worse than doing all that. And like me, I had a lease, and I actually lost it October 17th one year because they didn't want me out there anymore. And if I would have talked to them earlier, I could have prevented all the work that I did out there to losing that. So talk to your landowners. Make sure that you're still good to go out there. You're still good to hunt. Maybe they don't want you to hunt in a certain area. Maybe they got a new hunter that's hunting out there. I got one piece of my private that I just picked up. There is another hunter out there. I talked to him and said, hey, man, I'm going to be hunting out there. Not exactly what he wanted to hear, but it's good to let a guy know that you're going to be out there. Talk to the landowner. Do I have free range on everything? Do you want me not in a certain place? A lot of times around here, like if I get a deer, am I able to drive a four-wheeler in there to get it out? A lot of people don't want you driving on their hay fields or their crop fields if they're picked even for compaction. So that's just good things to clear out right off the rip. I even sent him a message like, hey, I'm going to go run cams. The guy doesn't really care, but I think it's nice to let him know that I was going to be out there. And then if anything happened to me, he would at least have that message that if my wife was asking where I was at, he'd say, yeah, he's over here. Okay, that's the private land hunters. But for the public guys out there, go to your public. If you're at a public park, if you can find a guy that works out there, see if you can get any info from him, any changes that they did to the ground. Maybe they planted a little food plot. One year, they planted one property planted a little couple hidden food plots down on the river bottom of beans that were like an acre and a half that nobody knew about. Wasn't on a map. No one said anything about it. They just kind of slipped in there and did it. That same year, they also hinge cut like 20 acres. They didn't do it aggressively, but they logged and hinge cut a lot of acreage there. Last year, we're out there hunting. We're doing a big loop around the backside, and there's a sign up that says they're logging this during the middle of the rut, middle of November, and there's no hunters in this area. That's something that we plan on hunting that area for multiple days. And if we would have talked to someone that was out there, they could have gave us info like, hey, they're going to be logging over here. And we could have X'd that off the list. So for your public land hunters, you can talk to those guys. Sometimes they're like, hey, man, I'm seeing a lot of deer over here. Man, there's some big bucks out here. Like, you can get a lot of intel from those guys. They see the sheds. They can drive around out there. They see the deer in the evening. They're out there brush hogging and bumping up deer. They're out there doing stuff, walking through the timber, and they're seeing what's out there, and they know a lot more than they do. And a lot of times, which is weird, is the guys aren't hunters. They're just not hunters. So that's weird to me that they aren't hunters, but they're not. So at least around here. Next, talk to your family, guys. Talk to your wife. Talk to your kids. If you can kind of have a game plan. I work 410s. Most of the time during the whole year, I'm on 410s, but I work 510s. A lot of times I work Saturday too. But during deer season, I take my 410s. And, my kids are in school. Then they go to daycare, and I pick them up. But you gotta give them a kind of a plan of what's your plan. You got any trips planned? What days of the week you're going to try to be hunting? Just tell your kids that hunting season is coming up. Tell your wife. Let them remind them. Tell work. Like, if you have a planned vacation or you plan on taking some floaters, is what they call us, where you can kind of take a day here or there. If you have any idea when you're going to take that, just throw it out there. Say, hey, for the last week of October and 3 weeks in November or whatever, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to take the last 5 days of October, I think, and then the first 7 days, and I'm going to take 14 days, somewhere around in there. I don't know. I might save a day for gun season. I'm not 100% sure, but just let them know. I had the talk with my wife, said, hey, I plan on taking Mondays, and I'm going to hunt Mondays. I've never had the advantage in my life to be working 410s. If I'm still on 410s, I'm going to be taking that Monday and hunting every Monday. Just the added amount of days per season that Monday gives me that I don't have to work is insane. It's like another 3 weeks of hunting, like vacation, just by taking that one Monday every Monday and hunting throughout the year. So that's something that I wanted to tell her. Be like, hey, if something comes up, cool, but I'm going to try to hunt a morning at least, since the kids are going to school on the Mondays. And if we have stuff going on in the evenings, that's fine, I understand, but I'd like to hunt every Monday if possible. And I let my kids know, hey, hunting season's coming up. They're excited. They're ready for me to bring home another big buck, and let them know, like, hey, if you want me to bring home a big buck, I got to spend time in the woods. I got to be out there. And I told my boss, like, hey, I love hunting. So, late October through November, I'm not going to be here. Just to let you know, to give you a heads up. She jotted it down on her calendar. She knows now that Jenkins isn't going to be here during that time. So even if she wants me, she's not going to call me. She sees on the list, hey, this guy's out. He's not available for any call outs or anything like that. He's hunting. Number 4, guys, go through your old data. This is an absolute perfect time where you're letting the trail cams go out there. I coin the phrase doing the Lord's work, because the trail cams right now, for me, you just set them there and they just get intel for you on what you got, what you're working with through the season. If you got anything you're going to be able to kill early, I absolutely love that. They're out there working for me the whole entire time, and I'm just sitting back chilling after I got them up. But what I'm doing right now is I'm going through the old data, going through the old trail cam pics, looking to see if anything strikes me like, oh man, this scrape got really hot this 1 week. There's a lot of bucks hitting it. There's a lot of bucks in this feed field at a certain time. A lot of bucks in this doe bedding area. There's a lot of does on this white acorn flat at some point. These are things you can pick out from that trail cams where you can see it, especially if you run mobile cams. Like, you have the nights where the cams are just, there's cams are just dead, and then you have something like boom, something hits, and you can look back at that data. What was it? Excuse me. Was it the weather? Was it pressure? Are they starting to hit a scrape more often? But there's one scrape on my urban piece. Man, that last week, the third to fourth week of October, thing just lit up. 5 shooter bucks in there, 2 in daylight. I ended up killing one of the bucks that was in daylight. Kevin Gates there, a gigantic 8-pointer, going J-hooking right into that scrape. But that data now, I looking through that data, I'm like, man, I had this other buck daylight there. We seen this buck hit that scrape daylight. All these other bucks were daylight there. Like, we have a lot of intel on bucks that were in the area. There's a triple main beam buck. There's a buck we call Trailer Park. Tupac's there. Buck we call Tupac. There's a lot of bucks that were in that area that I'm looking forward to seeing right now. Another thing is on my public. There's certain times of the year when I had got my big public land deer on trail cam for the first time. And that was like September 7th, September 15th, September 25th. I got him through there, and I'm running cams back in there, and I was thinking, I hadn't got a picture of him yet. The past 2 years, he hasn't showed up to that first week of September. So looking back to the data, couldn't remember the exact time. I'm like, okay, yeah, first week of September. I'm still a month out, 3 weeks out from when I think this deer is going to show up. So I don't need to move those cams, try to find him. I just need to let him hang there, chill out, and hopefully he comes back if he's alive, and I get that picture of him. But go through that old data, categorize them. What I do is I'm a scrape hunter. I love scrapes. So I put scrapes in categories. So I have like names, certain like the food plot scrape tree on the King Boonertown, the urban top scrape, the urban bottom scrape. And these are scrapes that I know. And I have folders on my computer with every picture of a scrape buck that's on that scrape, whether it's daylight, dark, whatever it is, doesn't matter. I have a picture of a deer on that scrape, a buck that I want to hunt. It goes in that folder, and that folder gets kind of full. You get 100 pictures in there throughout the year, and it's hard to forget what you had on all those scrapes. So I like to categorize my scrapes and see. Man, this buck really fired up on this scrape last year. And to see if that coincides year after year, then you can really connect the dots on some bucks if they do that repeatedly. But I have a buck that I'm really looking forward to, Trailer Park. He started freaking in an area, hitting a scrape that third week of October. I'm really keying in on that area third week of October. Going to run a mobile on that scrape and see if he returns. I'd really like to kill that deer. He's probably mid-60s this year. So I'm really excited about that. I also have every buck categorized in a folder. One buck I call Buzz Lightyear, the one that homie missed last year, just shot just a tad bit low, like inches low, and shot right under him. I was going through that, and he was on my property 13 times last year on trail cam, once in daylight. And then we went in there and hunted him, and he was able to get a shot at him and missed. But that deer was on there 13 times from right before sunup to 1 a.m. to noon to midnight. Just all over the place. But that just tells me that deer frequents that area a lot. And if his home range shrinks a little bit, I got a pretty good shot at that deer, and that's a deer that I'm really targeting. Another buck I call Chips and Dips. Same thing. I got a folder for him. Looking at all his files. He showed back up. He's a giant. He's really big. Put on a ton of inches. And I'm excited. I was excited to go through that data, and when I pulled up his folder, I was kind of bummed out. He's a roamer. He wasn't there a lot. Only got a few pictures of him, all random. He was there in the summer, then he left, and he came back in October, and then he left, and he came back in November. So, in my mind, I want to target that deer because it's a giant deer, a shitload of points going on. He's got 7 on one side, 6 on the other, mainframe points, plus the split brows and stuff. Awesome deer, but he's not a regular deer. So unless something changes drastically, I'm probably not going to put a lot of work trying to target that deer. So if you have this option, if you have, you have them saved on a computer, or you got them on SD cards or a hard drive or something, just file them. File them by scrape, file them by area, file them by trail cam, file them by bucks, however you can get it in your mind to see if anything correlates together. And I love filing them by scrapes. That's something that I don't know if anybody else does. I really like doing that. It just lets you know what's on that scrape year after year after year. And a lot of the bucks come back, man. It's so cool to see when they come back and hit that same scrape, like that Boonertown scrape on the food plot. That last week of September, every single buck that we have on that property will hit that scrape. And then the first 5 days of October in daylight, one of those bucks will hit that scrape. Don't know which one, but one of them will the last 4 years. And we've always missed it by a day or two. We've always like, all right, we're going to throw 2 sets at this because we know there's going to be a buck here. Last year we hunted it. Felt really good going in. Ended up seeing a small buck and a doe. And then the next night a shooter daylighted on that scrape. We were a day off. But that was just patterned by scrape, man. Having that folder of king food plot scrape and pulling it up and seeing all these bucks on there year after year after year. So go through that data. Number 5, prepare your gear. Maybe you got a new stand. Maybe you're going to saddle hunting. A lot of people doing that. Maybe you got a new bow. You got to get used to all that stuff, guys. Every year I start shooting my bow, and I'm shooting it, ever so often through the winter, but I'm not a shoot your bow every week kind of guy in the wintertime. I'll shoot it like every 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. You got a nice day. And then when season comes, I start picking season, before season, a month ago, I start shooting quite a bit, and now I'm shooting a lot. And I then, when season starts, I try to get a couple arrows a day, and then have days where I shoot a lot. But when I first got my bow out, man, I wasn't comfortable with it. I don't know what it is. It was awkward for me for the first 20 shots, just getting back in the groove of shooting it a bunch. I changed arrows, had to redo my sight tape. I wanted to get that done way in advance. Not running anything different for my stand setup with my mobile setup other than I did buy one of the XOP stick carriers that goes under your harness. I love that idea. I might buy 2, but I bought one just to see how it's going to go. And then if I like it when I get it, I'm going to buy the second one. I figured I'd just pay the extra shipping and handling just to see if it's something that I'm going to utilize on both sides. But I really like that idea of having that stick on my harness. Speaking of harnesses, that's something you guys need to check right now. Check your safety harnesses. They do have an expiration date on those harnesses. Just make sure they ain't frayed. Make sure that the loops are good. Make sure that your locking method, whether it's a carabiner or hook or whatever it is, it's good. If you're in the saddle game, that's even more to inspect. If you had that stuff out in the weather last year, in the wind and rain and snow, make sure none of that stuff's rusted. Make sure it's all fluid. There's a lot of more moving parts to that than just a harness. Make sure that your tree rope is good. The rope they actually swing around the tree to hook off to on your harness. Make sure that tie-off rope is good. I actually bought a second tie-off rope this year, way, way lighter than the one I had. Man, it's like crazy. It's like half the weight. I had a really long one that you could go around like a giant ancient oak tree, and I don't hunt a lot of big trees, and it was always hanging down kind of in the way. So I went and got a shorter one this year. But make sure and check your gear, check your bowstrings, check your sight, check everything, check your stand straps, your safety harness. Make sure all that is good. Number 6, prep your private. Check your old stands. Check the cables and the straps on them. A lot of times, what I like to do is on my old stands, like the sticks, and I'll kind of do the pull method on them. With one hand on the tree as I'm going up. But that dang stand, when you get to the top, if you ain't been there in a couple years and you plan on hunting it, or you ain't been there since January of last year, I like to loosen up the ratchet straps that I have on there a little bit, put a new ratchet strap on there, leave the bottom one, put a new one on the top, tighten up the bottom one, then step onto that stand. I do that repeatedly just because that tree grew a little bit. I don't really trust the straps that I use a lot if they're out there all year. So I like to leave the bottom strap on, So it holds the stand in place. Just loosen it, unloosen the top, put a new strap on there, ratchet strap it in, then loosen the bottom, ratchet strap it again, then step on that stand and make sure that it's good. And like I said, verify your cables are good too. But there is nothing, absolutely nothing that I could see being worse than being so jacked up for season. You put in all the food plots, you got all the work in, then you fall out of a stand and you cannot hunt because you did not check your straps. If you go in there in the morning, it's dark out, and you try to verify those straps are good, it's going to be sketch, is all I can say. So another thing, clear your limbs and your trails, and think about your access routes per wind. Like I'm scouting this new piece of private that I got. I found a giant bed, jumped a smaller buck up in the area. I think what is a satellite buck. The other buck, could not see him from where I busted the satellite buck. But where this deer is bedded, I cannot really access him any good way unless I have a straight east wind, which is, we got a lot of east one year in the rut, which is weird, but we don't get a lot of east winds. So that's something that I have in my back. Like, okay, I can get in there on him on an east, and I have the cover to be able to hang. But without that, I'm not going to be able to do that. And now you also want to prepare your late season plots, your fall plots. I planted 2 late season plots this year. The Whitetail, no plow, excellent results with that last year. And then I also planted some Domain. I wanted to try it out. And then I also planted some chicory. I'm trying a chicory this year just to throw a little curveball at him and see if I can get some movement on that chicory. Never planted chicory. Heard some good stuff about it, but not 100% sure yet. But be thinking about all that stuff. It is absolutely go time right now when you're listening to this to get those fall plots in, especially for the guys in the Midwest. We're getting pretty late. You can still get those turnips and radishes and brassicas in. And man, when you don't have those on a property and then you put them on and then you see deer late season there utilizing them, it's so worth it. Like, I had 7 bucks, 2 shooters, daylight, late season, no tags on my brassica plot. And I was like, well, I can't hunt them, but at least I know those deer are alive and getting fed good right now when the elements are terrible. It's -10 out, and they're actually getting some, they're filling their bellies pretty easy because I planted that plot, in August. And that just feels good to me. But for your private ground, prep your private ground, or your public ground, prep your public ground. Go out there, pick your trees, figure out what you're going to do. E-scout right now, as much as you can do, as much as you can prep on public as possible. I know you can't plant plots, you can't, clear shooting lanes and stuff. But while you're out there hanging cams, you could say, I can get in this tree, I can get in this tree. I mark all that stuff down on Hunt Stand. I wish, if I wouldn't give away all my spots, I wish I could show you guys how I run my Hunt Stand. I feel like it's very efficient on how I run it and how I mark stuff. I'll mark stuff for like, man, I want to get a cam in here in November, or I want to throw a 2 hunts in here in November, or I want to come here late season and scout, or I have a lot of stuff on the notes. Make a mark, make a note. Love that feature. Because it's just so hard to hunt all the different properties and categorize everything in your head when you have it on that app. You hit cameras, all the cameras are on there. You hit, some, your highlighted red points that you wanted to investigate. You hit it, they're all on there on all your different properties. You click it and it says heavy creek crossing, potential cam site if you have assets available. And you're like, oh, I do have a cam available. That was a heavy trail. Maybe I should go throw one on there. So that's another thing that you can do. Get that shit laid out on your public land and just try to do the best you can right now. Anything you can do to make it easier when season starts. Number 7, give your wife, your girlfriend, your mom, whoever you got, a brief description of your hunting property, where stands are. A lot of hunting apps you can share with someone, like where stuff is, which I think is awesome. And let your wife know, your girlfriend, whoever, let your wife know where you're going that night in case something crazy happens and they need to find you. We had a guy out here. He used to take care of some public land. He was, the guy who ran it, was taking an old stand down that someone had left out there for a couple years, and he was taking it down. And I guess the stands that they leave on public land here, they basically have an auction and sell all that stuff, and the state collects the money and they plant food plots and etc. With the funds. So he's taking that stand down to be able to take it to this auction, and the strap broke and he fell out of that tree. And he told nobody was out there, couldn't get to his cell phone, had a broken leg, and he spent a whole day and a whole night and then part of the next day out in those woods. Broke his legs, messed up his spine, could not move, had no survival equipment. And literally, if he would have told one person, say, hey, I'm going in here to pull stands, this is kind of the area I'm going to be in. If I'm not back, 2 hours, 3 hours after dark, give me a call. If I don't pick up, come find me. And this is something I tell my wife, hey, I'm going to the King piece, or I'm going in on public. I'm going to be hunting the west side of public, or I'm going to the far public, and I'll be hunting the north side of that. And I show her my hunt stand, and she's got a screenshot of kind of where my stands are, or an area that I might want to be hunting. It's just a nice fact to know, especially when you have kids. Everyone has loved ones, and you don't want to ruin your hunting, for them and for you, because I guarantee you, if you're out there for a day and a half trying to crawl out of somewhere, you're not going to be motivated to get back out there and hunt a deer. So as easy it is, just give you a brief description. Hey, babe, I'm going to be on the King piece. You've been there before. I'm going to be on the top plot, and call me, after dark. If I don't pick up, call me a couple more times. And, if I'm not home a few hours, send someone to find me, or you come try to find me or something. It's just nice little comfort for you in case something happens, and for your wife or your family members, whoever you have. With the mobile hunting being so huge, I see a lot of more tree stand accidents coming, because hanging and hunting your stands, if people don't do the right measures, is extremely dangerous in some situations. It just is. You're trying to be quiet, you're trying to move, trying to get everything hung. You're hanging off the edge of a tree. Maybe you're not wearing a safety harness. Maybe you are. Maybe you unhook for a second, you fall, boom. You got no idea. No one knows you're out there. So just let someone know you're out there. That's all I got on that. Number 8, make an oh shit plan. I talked about this on Clint's podcast. This is, I think, what has killed a lot of bucks for me the past few years. Excuse me, got a drink there. My oh shit plan. Decide on your spots where you're like, I'm going to throw a sit here. I'll throw a sit over here. I ain't got nothing going on in the rut. Man, there's a ton of does over here. I'm going to go try that out. I can think of these spots in my head, like repeatedly. Just, I got a spot where I always bump a bunch of does. There's a spot that I turkey hunted and shed hunted, and there's always does in this one area, like a ton of them. So during the rut, I'll probably hunt that. I know of a really good water pinch point that if I don't have anything going on, I'll probably throw a set on that during the rut. I know of an apple tree that's in the woods. I ain't got a lot going on early season. It might not hurt to go throw a set on that apple tree if I get in on it. It's just those spots in your mind that you're not sure what's there. You don't have any assets on the area to cover it. But in your mind, you're thinking, man, there might be a good buck in there, and it makes sense to hunt. I know of a couple really good scrapes that I've been wanting to get cams on for a few years, but I just haven't, because I pick up this piece, or I want to try this piece, and I got a lot of cams on one piece already, but there's these scrapes towards the north that I really want to get on. They're gigantic. They look good, and they might give me a whole new buck to hunt, and I know there's does up there. I've hunted there before and seen does and small bucks. So that's another spot when I think that scrape gets hot. I might go in there and give it a shot. But these are, I'm getting off work late. The wind's not right. The weather's hot and crappy. Like anything that you don't want to go into your really good spot with, or, the buck hasn't shown in your good spot, the oh shit spot. Like, oh man, I just give this a try. Like, here we go. Let's go in here and do it. And I've had some really good hunts off these spots. And you can feel it. Like when you find one of these spots, you know it. Like, man, you can only hunt so many spots. So you're in your mind, you're thinking, man, I really want to hunt this spot, but I don't think it's as good as this other place that I got. So I'm going to leave it on the list, but it's not a spot I'm going to put a lot of assets in or spend a lot of time in. So this is the time to utilize those spots. So that's number 8. So going through them again. Number 1, get your license, guys. Number 2, talk to your landowners. Number 3, prepare your family for what's coming up with the season. Number 4, go through your old data. Number 5, prepare your old gear. Make sure your tree stands are safe. Make sure your harness is safe. Number 6, prepping your land. Prep your private, prep your public as much as you can. Number 7, give a brief description to your wife of your hunting property, where you might go. And number 8, make your oh shit plan. That's my top 8 list of things to do before season. Number 2, talk to those landowners, man. Make sure that is still good to go. That is so crucial. And then number 7, giving that brief description of where you're going to be hunting is a huge tip that I hear nobody talk about on any podcast that I personally do. And as I was going through these are kind of a personal, give your wife tips. A lot of people wouldn't write that down, but as my wife was reading them, she said, man, you should do a podcast about these, because a lot of people like you're thinking about deer hunting all the time, but you still miss these small details because there's just so much going on. But that's my top 8. So I got most of my trail cameras out. The people that listen all the way to the end, I give you a little bit of update. PT, physical therapy, the buck on public. Calling him physical therapy for the last couple of years. He has not shown, have not really pulled cams on him, but I am running 2 mobile cams in what I believe is his area. Like I said, he normally don't show up to that first week of September, so I'm not really scared about it. I did see an absolute gigantic buck on the bean field that is in close to his area, and I'm not 100% sure it was him, but man, the frame looked right. Did not have my binos with me like a rookie, and he was way out there. So he was like spotting scope distance, but didn't have my binos with me. I was actually on the 4-wheeler when I seen him. So pretty excited about that. The private, got all my food plots in. I got my food plot on the urban piece, which, guys, that's the most redneck plot ever. Went in there, they logged out a couple cherry trees, went in there with some weed killer, killed it, raked that timber soil, planted some shade tolerant stuff, and dude, it's growing like crazy. Got yearling does out there, fawns eating on it every day. Great to see. Got that in, got a stand hung in a more cover spot. That's where I killed my urban buck last year. Homie almost killed a buck there and got caught on drawing. He almost killed Trailer Park, which is a really good buck. Just got a mobile cam in there, so not sure what's there yet. Like I said, it's still early, and that scrape fires up real good in October. The king piece, I got my late season plot in. Man, I messed up on that. Did not get the seed in there, or did not spray it early enough, and man, those weeds were tall. Weeds were tall. So I sprayed it all, raked it really good. Man, it was a shitload of work. Got blisters on both my hands. Planted it. It's coming up good. And like I said, where we normally do beans, I wasn't able to get the beans in. I had a daughter at the same time. Excuses, I know. But I wasn't able to get the beans in, so I planted a chicory plot, and it's coming up good. And that's where Chips and Dip daylighted. Really solid buck. So excited to get some more pictures of him. And then on the new piece, I got a 10 that's pretty interested in, and then I got a really tight, tall 10 with some base kickers that I'm pretty interested in. It's so early. I have no data on those deer if they're hang around, but they're in 2 different completely ranges. But I did hang some cams on another one of the pieces that this guy owns, And the sign in there is incredible. That's where I found that big buck bed. If you're following my Instagram story, was sharing that there's just so much deer sign in there. It's crazy. There's a shitload of does in there. And I got my render on one of the heaviest crossings I've ever seen in my whole entire life. So hopefully get some good pictures of that. Just got it out yesterday. And I'm almost done with literally all of my whitetail work. I'm still going to be scouting from afar. Going to let the cams soak. I did go and check all the cams about a week and a half after I put them up. Verify they're working. Verify they're taking pictures. Pull the cards. Verify they're taking pictures. Put the cards back in. Check the battery life. Good to go. I do have one cam on public way in there that's a mobile cam that's giving me a little fritz right now. But that's just part of the game. The batteries are low on it. I knew I shouldn't have put the batteries in it. I did. But it will hopefully make it to when I pull the other cams. It's just got to make it like another month, which I think it will. If it don't, I got another one in the area, so I might just let it be. I do not want to go back in there. A lot of does and fawns back in there. That scrape hasn't opened up. A lot of acorns back there this year, so feeling good about that. So that's the catch-up to what I got going on. Feeling real good about season. Shooting my bow a lot. Got most of my gear gone through. For anybody that's listening, I will be at the Lone Wolf Roadshow, Custom Gear Roadshow in Iowa. I've had a bunch of people reach out and ask if I'm going to be there. Going to get to meet a shitload of people. The Deer Development, Moose, Justin Hollinsworth, Heath Cisco, a shitload of people are going to be there, and I'm very excited to go to that show and just meet these guys. And then I plan on kind of podcasting on the way up, and probably just a bonus episode of what I'm looking forward to the show. Talk about the people that I'm going to meet, and then on the way back, let you guys know how the show was, if it was worth going. Just be straight up honest with you, what I learned, if I did learn anything, didn't learn anything, and what was kind of covered there. And let you guys know how it is if you want to go to one next year, because this is the last one of this year. But pretty excited. It's on the DeQuistos farm. It'd be cool to go up there and see that and get to experience that. But like always, guys, love you. Appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Get these things done on your checklist. Season's going to be here before we know it. It's absolute time to rip on the whitetails, guys. And try to do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy. And Whitetail Legacy is out.